We have a tremendous deficit with Mexico. We have a tremendous deficit with Canada. We have a tremendous deficit with Europe, the EU, with China. I don't even want to tell you what Biden's allowed to happen with China. They're eating our lunch, and something has to happen. It's not sustainable, and I'm changing.
We talked about China, and that tariff is in place. You've said tariff is a beautiful word.
Well, that's just a small portion of it. I just did the China having to do with what's happening with fentanyl. That was a penalty to China because they're sending massive numbers. I mean, numbers like we've never seen before.
So more to come.
It really increased under Biden.
We're joined now by former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Mr. Secretary, thank you for coming on tonight. I want to hit two issues with you
It's great to be with you.
President Biden's immigration radicalism and China. And I want to start with China first because we have limited time. This is what Biden said about China 18 months ago versus today.
China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They're not bad folks. Last night, I was on the phone for 2 straight hours with Xi Jinping. We don't get moving, they're going to eat our lunch.
Which is it, Mr. Secretary? I mean, it's like a 180 on China after a 2-hour conversation.
Well, that's pretty muddled. From what I understand, though, there were threats made by General Secretary Xi Jinping. And Laura, you and I know the challenges that the Chinese Communist Party presents to our nation. I am counting on, indeed the American people are counting on this administration being tough and getting it right, making sure we protect jobs here at home from intellectual property theft, all the things that this administration did to put the Chinese Communist Party on notice that we weren't going to adopt a policy of the last 50 years, hoping and praying that if we just did a little more trade with them, did a little more commercial activity, that all of a sudden they would stop being predators around the world. We did that. We began this confrontation in a way that was important and protected the American people, and the American people.
Well, Biden said he brought that up, Mr. Secretary.
Well.
Sorry to interrupt, but the Biden administration said they brought up their predatory conduct, that's obviously concerning to them, and the readout of the call, which lasted staggeringly 2 hours, said their strategy versus yours, I guess, is based in realism.
It's just the other way around. It is a fantasy to think that you can talk to the Chinese Communist Party and convince them to behave differently. They know they apply pressure, they threaten, they bully, and they often get their way. And the United States, for the first time in an awfully long time, didn't let that happen over these past 4 years.
Now, the sale of the CCP-controlled social media company, wildly popular TikTok, now has been shelved by the Biden administration. The Trump administration had forced that. And the Journal is reporting that the Biden administration said the review would help it determine whether the national security threat cited by the Trump administration continues to warrant the ban. Now, that decision came on the same day as Biden's phone call with President Xi. Coincidence?
That's crazy stuff, Laura. You'll remember I was on your show that I talked for the first time about our efforts with respect to TikTok. And I think your question was, should we let our kids use TikTok? And my answer was not if you care about the privacy of your kid and to make sure that your kid's information doesn't end up in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. That didn't change. There's no need for review. It's very clear. And it sounds like they're headed down a path to let the People's Liberation Army have access to kids all across America. That is a horrible decision.
And China announced that it's banning the app Clubhouse, which is an audio app. It's supposed to be for encouraging free communication, and I think they hoped even for people who might disagree with some of the things that China was doing. But China's like, no, we're not doing that. So Clubhouse out as well.
Yeah. Oh, you saw that they banned the BBC today. This is a party that believes in Marxism-Leninism deeply, which means control the information, control the technology, and you can, in fact, control the people and influence their lives. Their efforts to influence us here in America, Laura, we've all seen it. It takes a tough, fair, realistic leader to push back against that. We did it, and I hope that they continue down that path. The early